Welcome to the Oracle Scroll. My name is Kevin Walder and I am your host, and I invite you to join my guests and myself as we discuss all things metaphysical. Welcome back to episode 11 of the Oracle Scroll. I'm your host, Kevin Walder, and today we are going to take a look at the card number 8, Strength, in most tarot decks. Card number 8 is Strength. Sometimes it's moved to position number 11, but in this case we're going to assume that 8 is the proper number. From there we're going to look in at truth. What is truth? Who has the truth? And how can you define or identify the truth? And then in the third and final segment of our show, we will take a call from a reader. In this case, it's Dannielle, who has written to us and asked a question about right livelihood. So we're going to discuss that with 3 cards that we'll pull from the tarot deck. So let's jump right into card number 8, the Strength card. And I'm just going to basically take the information that I put into my book, Tarot for Lunch, Lessons from the Cards, and we'll expand on it further from there. The Strength card is, of course, another member of the major Arcana family, and it carries a great deal of weight in a reading, indicating the overall nature of the reading. When the Strength card is present, it is a strong indication that no matter what the initial question, there is an underlying concern for morality and integrity. The artwork for this card, especially in the Robin Wood deck, shows a young woman gently stroking the mane of a lion as it sits quietly by her side, neither of them fearing the other. Unlike the physical strength of a warrior who can enforce his will over the animal by way of force, this strength comes from within. This leads us to realize that the strength being referred to here is not physical or brute strength, but a strength born of quiet determination and resolve. This card speaks to us of our inner moral compass and the integrity with which we live our lives. The Strength card says that even when it may be the most difficult thing we can do, we must remain true to ourselves, stand up for our core beliefs, stand up for our morality. The scene presented is one of total peace, with neither of the main characters contemplating any breach of that peace. The source of this kind of strength comes not only from personal resolve, but from a firm acquaintance with one's core motivations and integrity. This develops over time as one becomes more intimately familiar with what makes their world worth defending. What if the animal in the scene is actually part of the self, and the strength being exhibited here is that which controls our base desires and those parts of ourselves which may be tempted to act in a less than wholesome way? Sometimes the control of the self requires more courage than all the outside fears we may experience. Assuming control of one's world in such a manner is transformative and empowering for the individual, giving one the confidence necessary to face whatever challenge may come from one's environment. This awakens a strength far beyond any physical prowess the individual may possess. The Strength card advises us that we have much greater control over our life situations than we may realize, and maintaining a watchful eye is key to a safe and peaceful existence. When I see the Strength card appear in a reading, it tells me that the querent has been involved in a challenge which has caused them to re-examine their motivations and how they deal with those around them. This card tells me that the querent may have recently been called upon to stand up for themselves or take a moral stand even when that may have been an unpopular thing to do. The Strength card indicates that the querent has had to completely rebuild their personal world in order to be honest with themselves. Being true to ourselves is sometimes the only thing we have left to do. And by doing so, we share our best with those around us. And the three questions that are posed by this card: how is the energy of the Strength card manifesting in your life right now? How do you access the power of the Strength card when you are challenged? And finally, how has your life been shaped by always being true to yourself? The preceding was taken directly from my book, Tarot for Lunch, Lessons from the Cards. And that's available right now on Amazon.com in both paperback and Kindle versions. And taking it just another step further to get a little better acquainted with this character, I have a letter from the young lady that is depicted in most of the imagery that surrounds the Strength card. And it's basically entitled A Message of Strength. And she says, "Greetings. I am the female figure depicted in the Strength card of the major arcana of the tarot. Many questions have been posed recently about my appearance and the meaning behind the imagery associated with that card, the Strength card. I am at times accused of being immodest in my dress or lack thereof, and there is a very good reason for my scant attire. In fact, nearly everything in the images used to depict me has some meaning beyond the obvious. In the case of my near nudity, or in some cases total nudity, this represents my desire for transparency in all I do. I am without shame, and I celebrate my deep connection to the earth and all its inhabitants, as naturally as possible. Regarding my clothing, if any, there is nothing which says I am confident and poised in any situation, like being that exposed. If I were doubtful, afraid, or in any other way unprepared for the demands of this life, I would not be comfortable exposing myself in such a way. As you can note from every image of me, I am no shrinking violet. Nothing startles me or frightens me away from my connections to all of nature and my world. Take a long look at the imagery surrounding me. Look at the peace and the tranquility of the scene, and how the wild animals in the scene seem protective of me rather than threatening in any way. Notice that I don't have a whip or any other threatening instrument in my possession, so the trust between myself and the animals involved is mutual and reciprocal. I do not represent subjugation in any way. I have released the need for control and have accepted the trust and protection of divine nature and all her children. It is important to notice as well that I do not consider these animals to be subject to my whims and wishes or to exhibit for financial or other gain. Instead, I offer them the same respect and protection they have so generously offered me. It is clear to recognize the affection which exists between us as equals. Just as I am a divine being, so are all the beings sharing space with me on this beautiful home we call Earth. I am sometimes associated with the Hebrew letter Teth, meaning snake, which may refer to my ability to heal on all levels, earthly as well as heavenly. My ability to join the worlds is legendary. I am also associated with the rune sigil S or Sun, which speaks to the transparency of my work and the growth which can occur when one focuses on unity and positive interaction rather than maintaining control over other life forms. I just see us as one. My astrological attribution is Leo, again referencing my fierce determination and courage in confronting any challenge before me. Numerologically, I am an 8 in most decks. Some decks move me to the number 11 position, feeling this is a better fit for my personality. Frankly, it doesn't matter to me. I'm comfortable with either number. The number 8 indicates that I'm ready to launch and will not be dissuaded from my goal, which fits my Leo attribution quite well. As you will no doubt have determined by now, I am not speaking of any physical power or any visible means of motivation or restraint. I have no clothing with which to conceal a weapon to ensure my safety. And my body language speaks of firm yet compassionate acceptance of all those around me. So now that we've cleared the question of what I am not, what do I stand for? My energy speaks of confidence, personal power, emotional, mental, and spiritual strength. Without becoming a slave to emotion, my energy speaks of love and compassion and a spiritual connection to all beings which share my world. I calmly approach any challenge without fear or reservation. I remind myself constantly of my inner strength and power which guide my every move. Does this mean I never experience fear? Oh no. It simply means that when I see fear rising within me, I know that I'm experiencing a lack of strength and a loss of power. This tells me it's time to step back a little, withdraw from the crowd, and meditate on what I need to cultivate in my life and begin restoring that connection which gives me divine strength. In addition to offering love and compassion to the other sentient beings who share my world, I must also be open to receiving that same love and compassion from all that surrounds me. It's a two-way street. I am about that perfect balance which makes my world function smoothly. Please understand that I am here to assist you in developing this kind of self-control, which recognizes the value, worth, and lessons offered by all life around us. My warning is to maintain our connection and divine strength, because as we find ourselves slipping into fear, we know immediately that balance needs to be restored. There is no room in our world for powerlessness or hopelessness. These are simply indicators of fear being allowed to take over our relationships and feelings. I am here to remind us that restoring our divine connections, our love, and our compassion will create the peace and calm that we seek in our world. And that is a little visit with the young lady who's depicted in the Strength card. In the second segment of the Oracle Scroll, we take something of current interest and apply a spiritual solution or a spiritual thought or a spiritual direction to it. And this is an article that I wrote some time ago, again. It is called What is Truth? And it couldn't be more pertinent now than, it's definitely more pertinent now than it was when I wrote it. With all of our constant bombardment with what we're being told is fake news and lots of various alternative facts, perhaps. So, what is truth? This is what I said about it. What is truth? That really doesn't sound like a difficult question, but it is perhaps one of the most challenging questions we ever can ask ourselves. Our current political climate speaks volumes on the subject, as many individuals and groups claim to have the handle on the truth, and yet seem to be involved in such massive conflicts, not only with others, but within their own factions. As we move from politics to religion, the conflicting ideologies become even more polarizing and hostile, driving some to physically attack those who do not share their own view of truth, and others to advocate for rescinding basic human rights for those who do not subscribe to their particular brand of truth. So, back to that original question, what is truth? How can we ever be sure? And does it really matter at all? Any policeman or prosecutor can attest to the fact that eyewitnesses can be the most unreliable sources available when investigating a traffic accident or a crime that's been committed, because each one sees the incident from a subjective view. And therefore, they miss key pieces of information and, let's face it, evidence, which are happening at the very same time somewhere else in the scene. Each of us is shaped by our environment and early conditioning. Cultural and religious views of our communities color our perceptions, making truth much more subjective than most of us realize. As some of you know, I was raised in a very closed, fundamentalist environment, which made great demands of its adherents and rewarded them with the absolute assurance that they were in fact the chosen few who knew the truth, and I'm putting quotes around that, by the way, the truth. It is from this vantage point that I make my own observations about the truth, because I grew up knowing that some of what I was being taught was not the truth, because my own life experience was telling me so. I was experiencing things in life which directly contradicted what I was being told was the truth. Therefore, the bigger question is, what is my truth? Each of us has our own truth to live, and it does not exclude or negate the truth of anyone else in this world. In fact, part of our own truth can be accepting and defending the rights of others to have their own truth. It is only when my own truth says that I must stop you from living your truth that conflicts and even violence follows. No matter how strongly we may feel about a given truth in our belief system, we still have to respect that others do not automatically have to accept our truth as their own. Conversely, if we expect respect for our truth from the community and society at large, we must practice that same respect for those whose truth does not allow our truth to exist in their world. Even within our own spiritual community, we have many truths to celebrate. While we may agree on a great many things, we each have our own manner of spiritual practice, and our truth is displayed for all to see. Some will instantly recognize our truth as very similar to their own and will be called to explore our truth further, while others will be drawn to the truth of another. So, one more time, what is truth? I would suggest that truth is the deeply passionate motivation each of us feels when we practice our spirituality, our own brand of spirituality. It is the spark which keeps us on our path and makes us want to share our gifts with like-minded people. Truth means something different to each of us, and yet we respect and honor the truth of each other and defend the right each of us feels for our own truth. Finding your truth is the most thrilling experience a human can experience, and you alone can find your truth. Others may assist and guide at times, but only you can embrace your truth as your own. So what is your truth, and how will you express it in a way that is uplifting and compassionate to those around you? In our third and final segment of the Oracle Scroll, we take questions from the audience. Audience members will write in with a question, and we'll draw cards from the tarot to offer some guidance. If you would like to have a question answered, please forward it along to theoraclescroll@gmail.com. We will protect your privacy. Your name and information will not be used, but we will draw the cards and offer you some guidance in approaching your question. Today's question comes from Dannielle, and Dannielle writes, and you have to almost feel the oppressive weight of the question for her. I have been working for years to bring my life into alignment with my spirituality through right livelihood, and am feeling frustrated that it has taken so long to get there. Do you see any light at the end of this tunnel? My response is as follows. Dear Dannielle, nearly everyone I know, myself included, in the spiritual community has experienced what you are going through right now. Each of us is at a different stage of that process, with some being more successful than others. So your question is quite timely for a lot of us. I drew 3 cards for your question, and they are the High Priestess, the World, and Judgment. So start off with the High Priestess. She shows up to express, first of all, gratitude for your spiritual connection and to encourage you to continue the work you have begun. The High Priestess is a great teacher and will supply you with the necessary information at each step so you can rely on her assistance. The fact that you have stuck with your quest for this long is an indication of the strength of your connection to Spirit. And the High Priestess is there to encourage that kind of connection. Second card to step forward is the World, and it sweeps in to say, you have all you need to accomplish this and many other goals. You have it in your possession right now. Sometimes, oh boy, and this one's hitting a little close to home, sometimes we become addicted to playing the role of student when we should be stepping into the role of teacher. The World is the single most positive card in the deck, and it carries an energy of confidence and preparedness. So the fact that the World card shows up in this reading says that you are much more ready to realize your dream than you may yet know. Now the final card in the 3-card draw is Judgment. And this card is all about rebirth, reinvention, spiritual makeovers. This card is following up the advice on the previous 2 cards to say, now is the time to reinvent yourself in the image you've carried all this time. So that creative visualization you did way back at the beginning when you saw yourself doing your work, that's the image you want to carry forward right now. You've been bringing it along with you for all these years. Now it's time to start living it. It is time to act on your dream and start making over your life to accommodate your new role. So, in summary, I drew 3 major Arcana cards from the 78 cards available. First of all, that is a powerful indication right there, because there are only 22 of those cards, and out of 78 cards, I drew 3 of them that are power cards that are stepping forward to say, hey, listen, pay attention, this is it. This is a powerful indication that the time is right to make your move into the field you've been preparing for all this time. Your spiritual connections are strong. They work for you, and it is time to begin trusting your intuition rather than seeking a new teacher. You truly do have everything you need to make the move into the livelihood you've been dreaming about. Now, there's a catch. There is, however, some work to be done, and that involves your spiritual makeover. It is time for a rebirth. And this rebirth will astonish those around you and may even frighten you a bit. You may not know yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning, but it will be well worth the effort and well worth any heart palpitations. I don't want to make this sound easy, as it will challenge every belief you have ever had about yourself. But when you look at the reading as a whole, it says that your years of preparation and learning have prepared you for this moment. Anytime you feel doubtful or vulnerable, check in with your inner guidance, your intuition. Because in actuality, it's the only teacher you need right now. Thank you, Dannielle, for your question. I hope this has been helpful in some way. Good luck. We look forward to seeing more from you in the near future. As we conclude this episode of the Oracle Scroll, I want to reach out to you and thank you all for your continued downloads. I check it daily and it's impressive, from a very humble beginning. So thanks a lot for listening in. And please share the information with your friends, your neighbors, anyone who might be interested, and let them know that the podcast is available from iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and it's also on Facebook. If so, anyone who's subscribed or liked our Facebook page will automatically get a reminder of when a new episode comes out. So please, and please send us a question for the readers to work on for the segment, the advice column segment. We would love to hear from you. And again, like I say, we will definitely protect your privacy. We won't share any personal information when doing the broadcast. And please forward any questions, comments, or questions for the readers to work on to theoraclesscroll@gmail.com. Thank you for joining us for episode 11, and we look forward to seeing you again for episode 12. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Oracle Scroll. Find us on Facebook at the Oracle Scroll. If you wish to send comments, suggestions, or requests, please address them to theoraclescroll@gmail.com.